Bar Rouge this year is that we wanted to focus on the duality of classic versus contemporary, but also the importance of both, because I think that we need to acknowledge that some things never change in our industry, whilst a lot of things do. And we need to have both sides. We need to have the classic and the contemporary. And Sam, you can decide which group you fall into. I'll leave it up to you, but
Thank
Sam.
you very much. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Yeah, my name is Sam. I'm the owner of a bar called Wax On in Berlin. We opened about a year and a half ago, and I've just got a little presentation. It's titled Small Budget Bar with Big Budget Dreams. I don't have so long on stage today, probably like 20-25 minutes, so what I've tried to do is keep it quite short and just do bullet points. So just talk about the history of where I've worked, how I opened the bar, what kind of money we had, and then just kind of go through the techniques that we use at the bar to keep it open, basically, because it really is a low budget bar, as you'll hear about soon. So while I keep it kind of short and go to the point, please feel free to ask me any questions that you want to. We answer all questions open and honestly, so like, don't be scared. If you want to know how much stuff costs, you want to know where I got things from, blah blah blah, just go for it, and I'll be happy to share that information with you guys. So yeah, opening a low budget bar with big budget dreams. This is just a little quick introduction to the team. So this is actually the original opening team here. We've got myself, we've got Rose, she's now at Little Red Door here in Paris. We've got Joe Lewis-White and Damien Guichard, and we've recently expanded in the last 6 months, and we've got a couple of junior bartenders, and we've also got a guy that comes in 1 or 2 shifts a week just to kind of help us out, just to give us time to do paperwork and things like that, to be honest, because yeah, there's a lot of paperwork going on when you have a bar. So how did the bar start? I'm from England. I got my break back in the day by a guy called Matt Wiley. We happened to be from the same city back in England, and he was looking for a bar manager. I wasn't a particularly serious bartender before I started working for Matt Wiley. I just started while I was at college, just to earn some money, basically. And Matt gave me a break and offered me the manager's position at the Peg and Patriot. And then I moved over to Scout. I managed Scout for a while, and then I looked after Matt's consultancy project, The Talented Mr. Fox. So I did this. The plan was that I was actually going to move to Australia and hopefully kind of work for Matt again, or work for some other people. And a friend of mine, Damien, the guy that was previously on the picture, he had a bar, and I speak a little bit of German, and he's like, "Do you want to come and work for me?" So I went to work for him, and I worked there for 4 months, and then bang, the pandemic hit. So I was locked in Germany, and also at the same time, the mother of my child, she became pregnant with our daughter. So I was definitely staying in Berlin for a while. Anyway. It actually turns out that I was fired from my job. So I was in a really tricky situation. I got fired from my job, and because of the Brexit, what was happening, I wasn't entitled to any kind of like government help. I think I got like $300 a month, and I had to argue with them to get $600 a month. And my girlfriend was pregnant at the time, and I just got fired. So I was in a bit of a sticky situation. And we were getting towards the end of the pandemic. I started to make bottled cocktails to make some money on the side, do some consultancy projects, and then eventually a friend of a friend offered me the position, offered me the location of the bar, and I had really like next to no money at all. I think I had about like 15,000, 10 or 15,000 of my own money, and I had to borrow the rest from my parents and from my girlfriend. I think I borrowed like around about 7,000 euros altogether. So every single penny that I had was 20,000 euros to open the bar. I didn't have any more than 20,000 euros. So I really had to get it open for 20,000 bucks, which was like, it was a really great thing to do. It was amazing. I enjoyed it, but it was a monster project. And I know the world is full of young bartenders that don't have access to cash and things, and they want to know like how you can open a bar on 20k. So I guess hopefully I can share some of that information with you. There's a few things that I was really determined when I opened the bar, some things that I wanted to guide and change. I had some points that were really, really important to me. I really wanted to move away from what we now call kind of like toxic behavior or toxic bar ownership, or that kind of that kind of behavior inside the bar. And like, what does that mean? I really wanted to make some changes. Like, I didn't want to be the kind of boss that just comes in and counts money and then leaves home and doesn't work with my team and doesn't do anything like this. I'm not saying bad about anybody that does that in the world. It's just something that I don't want to do. I really wanted to be part of my team, and I wanted to be part of my bar and kind of like evolve and grow. Like, I'm still learning, I'm learning a lot every day. And that was really, really important to me. So there's some things that we'll talk about later that I've introduced that will basically stop things that happened to me that happened to my staff, like getting fired from my job and only having $300. Like, all my staff are insured, so if anything ever happens to them, they're completely covered. So they don't have to worry about that, and they never have to think about this as well. And there's also another thing that I really wanted to change in Berlin. I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but in Berlin is a cash society. So there's a lot of money that's not accounted for, and people don't pay their taxes basically in Berlin. And not only do they not pay their taxes, but they pay half of their staff on a contract, and then they pay half of their staff in cash. So if that member is ever fired or ever gets sick, or if there's a pandemic, they're only legally entitled to half of the amount of money that they would be normally. And I thought that this was just really, really terrible, so I really wanted to put a stop to this. So these are just a few personal points of mine that I wanted to go through, just what I feel personally about the bar industry and what I would like to see different. So now moving more on towards the presentation, we've got what we call the 4 key pillars of success that are success for our bar, and what we have to do to kind of like strive to really maintain and run our bar and keep it successful. Because honestly, it really is a hustle to keep a low budget bar alive. You're constantly having to think, and you're constantly having to adapt. So first of all, we have the no bullshit policy. We have conceptualization through limitation, and then we have systematic dependency, and the last is the basics, keeping things simple, right? So the no bullshit policy, what is it? Everyone always asks us. The no bullshit policy is a program that's designed to encourage people to be honest and to be straightforward and give direct answers, and it's to empower people to be able to say what's on their mind. So we don't want people to be afraid to say something, because in the long run that might affect the business. If you're quiet and you don't come up with something, or you keep an idea back, it could be detrimental towards the business. So we want everybody to be empowered to be honest and be comfortable, and that comes under the no bullshit policy. And that is that when we talk to each other in a direct manner. We don't have to kind of move around. We don't have to say please and thank you. We have to say to each other, look, I think this is a really good idea and we should test this out. And then we'll go and test this out. What also falls under the no bullshit policy, and this is something that I really wanted to introduce to the bar as well, is the financial aspect of the bar. Personally, in my opinion, I never really understood why the money was always in the control of the people that own the business or ran the business, kind of like a hierarchical structure, and then the people that worked below didn't really have kind of like access to know what's going on in the business. Because, I mean, on a small budget bar, it's so important that people are aware of the financial needs of the bar to keep it alive. I really wanted to involve them in the money, and also from the other aspects as well. Like, maybe some of these people that work at the bar, they want to come and open a bar, right? And I think finances is one of the big things that we don't learn about in the hospitality industry, like how to deal with finances. We concentrate on our recipes or our technology or our style of service and things, but it's like, how many times do we have conversations about money? And it can be super, super awkward. So what happens at Wax On is everybody that works at Wax On is responsible for a financial report when they close the shift, and then everybody views a financial report of what's happening at the bar. Everybody is also able to see what tips the other person is getting as well. I've worked in so many places before where tips have been kept a secret, and it's been like a lot of contention, especially if you have like a restaurant and a bar together, and it's like, and people think that other people are stealing and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, look, let's just be honest about it. You know, if you work, you get tips, and we should see like what people are earning. The third topic under the no bullshit policy is the work-life balance. So, like, time is truly one of our most valuable assets, and it's one of the things that we can't get back. Like, we can never get that back, so we have to be able to make the most of what we can do with our time, but we also need to have the time to be able to relax and to be able to do other things that aren't work, that aren't this, like hobbies, you know, spend time with family and things like this. So the no bullshit policy really ties into time and work-life balance, because being direct with people and being honest with people and not having a hierarchical structure inside the bar, everybody is a unit, it means that we don't really waste each other's time when we're communicating with each other. We're very, very to the point, and we're very direct with each other, and we try and harbor this culture of honesty and direct conversation. So because it's disrespectful to waste somebody's time, right? And it's also quite inefficient for a business, especially a small business that's like really kind of like month by month having to manage its budgets and, you know, portion off like parts of the income to reinvest or to pay taxes or to so the work-life balance really falls into place into the no bullshit policy. We have a very strict work-life balance ratio at Wax On, which we'll go on to talk about later as well. The last point on the no bullshit policy is creativity and ego. So one thing that, especially kind of being from a really big city that's very competitive, is that sometimes, you know, like competitiveness and ego and things can actually get in the way of doing your job and running the bar. And like I said to you guys earlier, we need to be able to work as a unit. We have to be able to work together. It's like, we can't lose sight of our goal. Like how many times have I witnessed, or have I been working service and I've asked the question, hey, look, has that been done on table 3? And then the person that you're asking, they're like, they feel bad. They feel like they're doing a bad job, so they become defensive, and therefore they say, oh no, because I was doing this, because I was doing this. So this is something that we really try to remove from the service aspect, and part of that is to be able to speak directly to another person, but then also to be able to answer directly without being judged by that person. So it's kind of like a two-way street, you know. You should be able to speak to someone directly, but if you're asking someone a straight question, you can't be judging them for their answer, because we have a job to do, and we have to get on with that job. And that's kind of like part of removing the ego inside that frees up our creative side. It frees us up to be able to do the service that's needed in the bar. It frees us up to be able to make a drink and not have to worry about another bartender saying your drinks aren't very good. You know, these kind of things that we get locked into at work and stuff all the time, we kind of like need to kind of get that out of the bar. So moving on to the second point, that's really kind of like this point has really defined the bar. Like honestly, the concept of Wax On is kind of defined by our limitations more than it is by my hopes and dreams of what I would like for a bar. You know, I would love to have a super big budget and build a bar that my absolute dream bar, that everything I want to. That's not the reality that I live in, and the reality is that most of the things that I do in life that are work related are controlled by finances or controlled by time and things like this. So this is like a really, really important aspect for us as well. So as I've previously mentioned already, the concept is often limited by the budget. We have to we have to standardize as much work as possible. And I believe that in the last 6 months that we've really come a long way in standardizing the work that we do. So if anyone has any questions, regarding like standardizing behaviors and standardizing works and having routines and everything behind, just to keep all of that kind of like crazy work to a minimum, please go ahead and ask. And also the kind of equipment that we have to use is super, super important. Like, we have a Google review, you can go out and check it, and somebody said that the bar is not very good, and the bartender is really arrogant because he owns a 12,000 euro centrifuge, which made us laugh because the centrifuge did not cost 12,000 euros. I wish I had that money to buy a centrifuge. The centrifuge cost about 1,000 euros, and I had to clean it out myself because it was second hand, and I had to go and source it. I had to go and pick it up in a van and stuff. But there's a reason that kind of like why we have to like hustle for the equipment that we have, and it's essentially because if we do have a centrifuge, okay, it's kind of cool, but the good thing about it is that we can make more juices in the bar. I can make like 4 times as much juice in an hour than I can if I do it by hand. By clarifying and things like this. So it's simply time. I have 1 day a week where I have to clarify and process all of my products inside the bar. And this is what it's done. And those pieces of equipment are out there. You can get them cheap and you can buy them, and they do benefit your bar. And it's not just to be kind of like cool and hip and everything as well. We also have a centrifuge that I just wanted to talk about. We actually got our centrifuge for free. It's from Heidolf. We got sponsored by Heidolf to use their centrifuge. But I just kind of like want everyone to know that they didn't approach us and say, hey, you're amazing, do you want a free centrifuge? We came up with a concept, we came up with a project that we proposed to them because we couldn't afford a centrifuge. And we really wanted to, sorry, not a centrifuge, a rotary evaporator, sorry, my apologies. They cost like 15,000 euros, and there's no way that I could afford that. So there is kind of like options out there for people. You can create products and you can create kind of like wealth, or you can create an environment where you can have free equipment, and you can kind of like create relationships where it's beneficial to 2 people at the same time. So we kind of have a free Rotovap, and in return we make social media posts, and we teach bartenders on videos how to use the rotary evaporator, which in turn is good for the company as well. So this is kind of like just an idea of like how we get by. Another really important thing that I had to do is I had to create a framework for the drinks, for the style of drinks at Wax On. As I said before, I used to work for Scout, and Scout's kind of ethos was locally sourced products. And I've also worked for kind of like hotel bars and things before that have super big budgets. And I basically like, I didn't have that available to me. I didn't have that time, and I didn't have that budget to work around. So what I had to do was develop a system that was both easy to make a drink, that could deal with high volume. I could also teach new bartenders how to make drinks. We have junior bartenders at the start that don't have a lot of experience with kind of like designing drinks, and that's my job. I'm there to kind of teach them and bring them up. So what we did at Wax is, first of all, we use a program. It's called Ethel. This is a plug for my friend Alan. He owns a bar called Little Mercies in London. This is a fantastic program. It's basically a program where you enter all of your ingredients, what things cost, what ABV or what alcohol content the alcohol has inside, and it basically churns out everything. And this is actually one of our drinks. I don't remember which one, but it is one of our drinks, I promise. So you can see here like the ABV of the drink by the drink size, by the serve size, how much it costs you to make 10 liters, and also what's really important is your gross profit, is how much money you make on each particular drink. This is like absolutely crucial for us to maintain kind of and standardize our drinks at Wax On. And then what I did is, if you look at the menu and you're a bartender, you probably noticed that when we change drinks, like all of the drinks are actually the same drinks. So we're not constantly coming up with new recipes, and we're not like under pressure to be able to come up with those things all the time. Essentially, if we have a highball, the highball is always built the same, but all we do is we swap the ingredients out for seasonal ingredients, and that's the structure, and that kind of enables us to make the drink drinks like super quickly to change the menu, but it also gives this kind of like skeletal framework for new bartenders to be able to look at a drink and say, oh my God, I get that. That's really easy. I'm just going to swap the strawberries out for raspberries. I'm just going to swap this for swap this. And that kind of like empowers them to make drinks. And then they start creating new drinks and going on their way. So this was like a really super beneficial thing that we did for the bar. Another limitation, the bar is in Berlin. Berlin is very different to other European cities. The city itself really defines who we are, what we're capable of, when we can open, and how much money we can make. So, as probably most people know, Berlin's like a super party city, the clubs and everything. It's not generally known for a cocktail scene, although there is some really up and coming and some old school bars over there. It really affected of who these people were, and not only that, it really affects the times that we actually open the bar. Like we close the bar really quite early. We close the bar at 1 o'clock in the evening, and we're really strict with this. And there's lots of reasons behind that. Is that one, it's more cost effective to the business. If people don't work longer hours, it's more cost effective, right? Plus, in Berlin, being honest, when we start to hit that 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, the type of guest that you receive in Berlin changes. So people have been out, a long day, and that kind of like, we're a seated service cocktail bar, and it'd be really difficult for us if our bar got slammed with people that have been out drinking all day long. Like, we can't handle that. So we made the decision to close at 1 o'clock, and we also open at 7 o'clock in the evening. And the reason being is, in Berlin, there's not really kind of like this aperitif drinking culture. So people tend to go out and eat quite early, between say 5 and 8 o'clock, and then they go out to drink afterwards, and then they go onto a club. So we're kind of like slotted into this really small space, and we have to maximize the most out that we can get out of it as possible. Sorry, I messed that one up then. So yeah, the guests and the city itself and the culture is so kind of like, it really does define who we are. So anybody that's thinking about opening a bar, really try and get an understanding of like where you are, what's the vibe in your city, who are the people, what do they like, because it's just it's so important. This kind of like ties into what I was talking about before about time. So our work-life balance is so important to us as a bar. We only give 30-hour contracts in our bar, and bartenders only work 4 days a week. So obviously sometimes the bartender will have to work 5 to kind of like cover a holiday or something like this. But the standard week is 4 days on and 3 days off. And again, there's like multiple different reasons why that we do this. It's cost effective to the bar. It's like I've worked like some crazy intense hours in my life, and you just kind of like hit a point where you don't become productive anymore when you're just working all the time, and it's too much. And for a small bar that operates on a really low budget, I really can't afford to have bartenders working there that are burnt out, because you don't really we can't become that unit, and we can't get the most out of that one night of service that we can possibly manage. And so yeah, it's a 30-hour contract, 4-day week, and we also when somebody is off, they are off. They're under no obligation to answer any messages. In fact, we use an app that we'll talk about soon called Slack, and they are obliged to turn it off. When they're not working, they're obliged to turn it off and not answer any of the messages. That goes for holiday as well. So absolutely no emails, no messages, no nothing. Because it's so important to us that we're fresh and we're ready for work. We have to be there, because when we're working, we have to give it that 100% on the thing. So systematic dependencies. It's so important for us to systemize the things that we do at work. It can't be a free-for-all, because the bar just wouldn't make it. We have to systemize everything that we do, and everybody has to do things the same way. So our systems tend to promote efficiency inside the bar. And it's not the systems that are put in place, the systems are put in place for every single person. That's from me as the owner to the new person as the junior bartender. We do everything the same way, whether we have to, say, clean the toilet at a certain time, if we have to restock the drinks at a certain time. Everything is systemized and everyone abides to the system. It sounds I'm being quite strict now, but we have some fun as well at the same time. And this kind of like, so here I've put like everyone, including the owner and me. And one thing that's really important about the systems that I was previously saying is like, no individual is bigger than the bar. No one is bigger than the bar. If the bar cannot open without one person being there, we've got a big problem. So we have to, thank you very much, buddy. We have to have some systems in place that treat everybody as an equal and allow everyone to be able to be, sorry, 1 second. That allow everybody to be able to work together and concentrate on the job involved. There are some minor exceptions that we do have that are really important to us. So junior bartenders, for instance, when they start, they're first expected to learn the ropes of service and opening and closing the bar, because they need to be at the point where they can open by themselves and be responsible for that evening's service to get everything ready for the bar. So generally speaking, we have a 2 to 3 month training period, an onboarding process, of where we just solely concentrate on making the drinks, so working on the bar and working service and opening and closing the bar as well. We're getting more towards the end. How am I for time? I'm okay, no? 5 minutes? Okay. We're getting to the end, and then we'll go to a Q&A. Thank you for your patience, everybody. The basics. So I think that when I talk about the systems that we use in place, it sounds quite serious and it sounds quite strict. And so what we have to do is we have to remind ourselves that we have to have fun, and we need to keep it basic as well. We don't need to like get carried away with everything. We just have to. So the bar, like Wax On, is just a bar. It's just a bar with elevated service, because that's all we want to be. You know, we're not a heavily concept-driven bar. We're just a local bar where people can come and have a drink and just be treated with respect and as a guest, and come in and have a nice time and hopefully enjoy the drinks. And we try not to ever move from that concept. We have to remind ourselves, guys, we're just a bar. We're just bartenders. Let's come in. Let's have some fun. Let's make some good drinks and let's do some good service. The interior of the bar as well, I just wanted to point out, actually that was another thing in designing. The kind of the interior matches the city, and so Berlin is like grey, it's dark and things like this, and this is just another thing how like Wax On ties into its environment and the city that it's in. And it also happens to be that like making your bar out of concrete and things like this is super cheap, so that's why the two things tie really well in together. But yeah, just to kind of like go back to that point of being really involved in the place of where you live and recognizing those things. This one is really, really close to me. This is one of the most valuable lessons that I've ever learned in hospitality, and I was lucky enough to learn it a long time ago. When I talk about time and I talk about work-life balance, that doesn't just apply to us, that applies to our guests as well. You know, the guests as just who knows where they come from, who knows what they do, who knows what week that they've had, right? They could have just worked an 80-hour week, a 90-hour week, and they want to have a drink, and they've chosen to come to your place, and they've chosen to spend their money, and they've chosen to spend their time. Like, that's a really special thing for somebody to do, to come to your environment and, you know, choose to be there. And the thing that I always try to remind myself is, if you respect that and you remember that, everything else falls into place. Everything else just falls into place. Just remember that person is a guest in your bar or your restaurant or, you know, your hotel or whatever. And if you treat them well, they'll have a good time. They'll bring their friends back. They'll come back as regular guests. And that's how the whole thing rolls together. It's just a roll. So it's something that I personally believe it should always be at the forefront of what we do in hospitality. The drinks-wise, a lot of people ask us how we do the drinks and what our style is. So our style is basically twists on classic cocktails. We like to make highballs. We do things like peanut butter and strawberry old fashions. We got a couple of rules. we call it bangers only. And basically, if you wouldn't drink 2 of them, it doesn't make it on the menu. No discussion. If you don't drink 2, it doesn't go on the menu. And we just clarify a lot of things that we do in life because we like the way it looks and things like this. Yeah, and secondly, lastly, the work-life balance. We go back to it again. So we want to be a catalyst for bartenders to approach us to come and work for us in the future. No bartender is going to stay at Wax On for, I don't know, 10 years or 20 years. People want to go off. They want to do their own thing. They want to become their own people. They want to open their own bars. They want to, work for a bar that's, where they can learn more different things. So it's really important for us to just remember that we have to, as a bar, we have to respect the people that work at the bar above anything, so that we can become a kind of like a shining image to attract new people and new talent in the future. So I think I should basically end right there, right? I think I'm on my time. Yeah. I rush through it a lot. Thank you for everybody for attending today. I'm gonna cut it there so I don't go over my time. But please, if you do have any questions, I'll answer them honestly. You can ask me anything you want to.
Well, I have a question.
Oh no, I don't have any earphones. I can't hear you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So my question would be, do you feel there's a difference when you...
Thank you.
We didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there's a difference when the team gets full insight to the financials?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a difference. I think they're empowered. I think it doesn't separate them from being a worker and being an owner inside. Yeah.
And does it change their relationship with the bar? Because now they understand how fragile the ecosystem of a bar is, that if you give away this drink,
it's a good question.
You don't get salary.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. There's some things that I've noticed is generally kind of like bartenders feel more empathetic towards the bar. If you're involved in the financials and you're involved in the day-to-day operations of a bar, even if you're a junior bartender, you care more about it, because it's just a natural human way, right? The more you know about something, the more you care about it. So, absolutely, yeah.
And does the no bullshit policy ever create conflict between the team?
Yeah, absolutely it does, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's not, this is, I don't want to give the impression that this has been plain sailing and that we've been happy every day. Like, it's difficult. It's really, really difficult to be honest and straightforward with someone, simply because of the fact you don't want to hurt their feelings. So it takes time. It really, really takes time, but it's something that we really work towards, and we're not always successful. Yeah. Because
sometimes investing that time in communication is actually very time consuming.
Yeah, it is. It is very time consuming. Yeah, you have to be quite dedicated, or you have to really want it. Yeah.
How did you choose the neighborhood in Berlin?
It was a friend of a friend, and there was no buyout money. It was my only option. Yeah, I didn't have any other options. I couldn't afford to take over the buyout money of any other place. So this one was essentially free. So I had to take it over, and I had to be like, okay, I have to make something here. It is what it is. Let's go.
And for those who doesn't know Berlin very well,
yeah,
can you explain the area?
Yeah, we're in the middle of a place called Neukölln, which is attached to an area called Kreuzberg. So it's a little bit like, for any of you that have hung out in Shoreditch like 10, 20 years ago, it's like party town. It's like real party town. And then kind of like surrounding the whole area is really, really famous clubs that open for like 4 days. They don't close. People just party all day long. And we're kind of like in the middle of that. Yeah.
Is there a lot of other bars around you, like cocktail bars, pubs?
There's lots of bars, but they're more like pubs, late night drinking bars. There's a few cocktail bars. The guys at Velvet. Shout out to my friends at Velvet. They got best bar in Germany for 2 years in a row. Those guys are super close, so that feels like makes us kind of feel good that we're doing some support in the area.
Okay, my last question.
Please.
Before I hand over the microphone.
Okay.
So, proportionally, how much is your rent of your outgoings every month?
It's a good question. So my rent increases by 10% each year. And I should definitely know the answer to this off the top of my head, and I've completely forgotten. You've put me on the spot. It's not crazy. Berlin is a lot cheaper to rent than most other European cities, so it's actually quite low. Staff costs are much higher in Germany, so staff costs are actually around 40%.
Ooh.
Yeah, because we have to pay health insurance and we have to pay people's pensions. It's not the responsibility of the government to do that. It's the employer's responsibility. Yeah.
I'll pass it over.
You are also a parent. Do you have words on how it is to be a parent? How has that affected your perception of like encouraging hospitality careers and what they should afford people?
Yeah, absolutely. Nurture, when people talk about nurture, it's certainly brought a side out of me that I wasn't aware that I had before. I was always kind of like quite hustle bartender, and now I'm more kind of like nurture. My baby was born at the same time that I opened the bar. It's definitely the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, like hands down. At one point I had a new baby in my arm, I had a laptop in the other one, and then I was like clarifying raspberries over here, that kind of stuff. It was really, but kind of like that process of, it's the first time that I've been a bar owner as well. It's the first time that I've employed people. So I've kind of like just been thrown into that nurture kind of thing, which I guess why this is, work-life balance, being respectful to people, like loving your guests, loving your staff. I guess that's where that's come from.
And do you have any sort of environmental sustainability initiatives as a part of your practice or as a part of the bar?
Yeah, it's definitely a part of the bar. I mean, obviously being the bar manager at Scout, there was no way that I was going to be able to get away with not doing something like that. It's not something that we shout about from the environmental side. But I think that a lot of things that people don't talk about is that being from the environmental side can always have a really good impact on the financial side of things as well, those kind of practices. So we shout more about the financial side of things because that's kind of more intrinsic to what we're doing at the moment. We're trying to, get through and open this bar. But we do practices like we have a gimlet on the menu. The recipe stays the same all the time. We just swap the ingredients out. And how we, in fact, it's actually with this buck here. We take all of the old lemon and lime juice that's not used in the bar. We mix it with a little bit of lime skin, and then we clarify it with agar-agar, which is from this book here, from this recipe. So then we make clarified lime cordial, and we can make liters and liters and liters of it a week, and it always ends up in another drink. So it's a sustainable practice, but if I'm being honest, we probably do it more for financial reasons.
Hi.
Thank you.
So hi here.
Hi. Sorry.
So you said you opened the bar where you had a budget of 20,000 euros to open. So you get the money, and what are your priorities? Like, how do you do the design? You need to open what is the delay because construction takes time. You need to start paying rent. What is your choice of taking staff? Like, did you hire everybody at once? Like, how that process with 20,000 euros started?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I built the bar myself. I didn't have any construction workers. I had to hire one guy to help me with welding. Like putting metal together because it's quite complicated. But I did everything else myself, and I essentially built it around the fridges. Because the fridge space is like, how many bars have we been to? And you go to back of house and everyone complains about fridge space. We need more fridges. So I was determined to have like enough fridge space. So I kind of like found a good deal with some really good fridges. And then I designed the bar around this. And then the designing the bar and building the bar came before hiring the staff, So it was kind of like a process of building the bar to a point where it could work as an actual bar, and then filling it with the things that it needs to operate. So staff, glassware, those kind of things. So it was kind of all together, but separate.
And how long it took you to open?
I had to do it in 3 months. Yeah, I had to start paying rent in 3 months from when I signed the contract. And I didn't have any money. In fact, when I opened the bar, I didn't have any money to pay anybody for the first month. I had to actually make that money in the first month to pay everyone's wages. That's how tight it was.
And I think a lot of people, they don't know about these timelines where you have a certain period which is rent-free. You have like, if you go into a venue, you have to pay out the lease that is already there.
It's crazy,
and this
right?
is often the big barrier for a lot of bartenders when they want to open their own bars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to share with us before we let you roam free in the streets of Paris?
I can't think of anything per se. Is there any more like questions or anyone from the audience? I'd be more than happy to answer something. Oh, we have one here. This guy needs a microphone.
Jeffrey, always the troublemaker.
Did you say 30-hour week on your contracts?
Yeah, 30 hour.
How do you maintain a full staff, a full work week with 30 hours? I mean, every city is quite different.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Do you pay them more, or I mean, I always like to understand that a little bit more.
So I can't get into like actually what I pay people because that's private towards them. But we pay above average of the average salary within the city. We in the week we only have 2 members of staff, and the weekends we have 3 members of staff. So it's like a real hustle when the bar gets busy. You really have to go for it. And this is kind of like how we manage. We have this balance from kind of like an intense work to a nice kind of relaxed time, 3 days off of work. It took us time to get there. This is not a concept that we introduced that just works straight away. There's been moments where people have worked 5-6 days a week and everyone's too tired, and it wasn't working. We had to sit down and we had to say to each other, look, we can't do this. How are we going to do this? So it's definitely been a work in progress. Yeah, and it's something that's still evolving over time as well. Yeah.
So I'm going to finish off with one question, and
Please.
that is, if you had to give one advice to the audience, whether you want to open a bar, start a brand, be successful, what is the one thing that you wish someone would have told you 10 years ago?
I think that manage your finances. Manage your finances, because they can escalate. They can really spiral out of control if you're not on top. It's like manage your finances. It's the most important, whether it be a small budget to a big budget. Figure out how Excel works. Have a spreadsheet when you're spending money. Do it with your salary, with the stuff that you're buying in the month, just to try and get used to doing it before. But manage your finances, because you're always going to need to buy stuff. You're always going to want to buy stuff. I'm always going to want this nice thing, or I need to go and buy one of these things. And if you don't start accounting for that, suddenly you've got a big portion of money that's not accounted for, and you're like, where is it? Where's it gone? One of my problems as a bar owner is I want to finish my bar. I want it to be the best it can possibly be, and I want to be able to work in it, and I want everything working. So I will tend to invest in something else when I probably should wait a month, wait 2 months, wait 3 months, save up the money and then invest. So, and that's definitely one of my shortcomings as a bar owner. But I would say manage your finances properly. Learn how to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Thank you. Bye.